Hi guys. This morning I ended up with some free time. I was headed to work and all ready to go, and my first client, who I had a heavy duty service time on, had to cancel. She had an emergency in her family and had to cancel. So was I bummed? Yeah. But I thought, you know what? This frees me up time. What can I do with the gift of time? So I decided I would come home. This is you're seeing me here in my studio here at home. And I thought I would do a haircut for you. So one of the trending haircuts that I see and I have asked for all the time is bobs. Bobs are super, they're a classic, right? But there's kind of a new twist on them now, and that is they're kind of edgier, they're piecier, there's a lot more texture to them. So I thought today I would do something kind of like this. This is kind of my inspiration photo. I like how it's got some layering to it. It's considered a lob. You kind of hear those phrases thrown around a little bit. You know, what is a lob? What is a bob? Well, a lob is like a little bit longer than a bob. It still has a very strong geometric shape to the perimeter. It can either be square or angular, triangular. And it could be a little bit rounded too, I suppose. But a lob is going to be a little bit longer. It allows them to still have kind of that bob vibe, but be able to still have the versatility to pull it up in the back. So a lob sits right about at the shoulder line. So that is my inspiration photo. And just so you know what am I looking at? I'm looking at Pinterest. If you are a new hairstylist or just starting out, I encourage you to start a Pinterest page and start making little files. My brain isn't working right now. Boards, they're called boards. Boards with different types of styles like pixies and bobs and layers and, you know, things like that, so that when your clients come in and ask you for a haircut, you can immediately go to a place where you have stored some pictures that you can pull up and ask them, this is what I'm hearing you say, is this right? Or if they're asking you for something that you kind of feel like it's not going to quite work, you'll have a place where you'll have a collection of pictures and stuff to be able to just show them, say, this is what I think would look good on you. Anyhow, so we're going to get started. All right, so let's get started. So this is just a mannequin head I pulled out. I had used it for a previous class, and it kind of is what spurred my my inspiration for today, because I was looking at my heads and I'm like, okay, what can I use today? And when I'm looking at this head, what I saw was I kind of liked that she had some length here in the front, and I wanted to keep it because I kind of liked it. And I thought, well, what can I do with that? And then I thought, you know, we had started this off doing a bob cut for a class that I was demoing on, but I didn't do the other side because it was just a demo. So I thought, well, what if we did a lob on this? Because I've had a couple of clients reach out, or stylists reach out and ask me, like, how do I cut a lob? Can you give me a class on a lob? So that was my inspiration. And a lot of times behind the chair, when a client comes in and they ask you for a style, you're not going to have a clean palette of all this long hair. You're going to have to deal with something that's previously been done to their hair. And so that's why I decided to do this. So as always, in all of my haircuts, I always take the time to map it out. And so here what I've decided is I want to be able to part her from the side. She's going to wear a side part. And I'm going to just break it off into 4 panels. So I've got my finger here behind the ear to catch it, and I'm just going to take the wide teeth of my comb. I'm going to set it in right at the apex, the flat part of the head, the top part of the head, which is the highest part, and kind of bring it down and just catch it there. And that way I'm just kind of balancing myself and separating myself from the front and from the back. And I'll do the same on this side. So when I'm looking at this too, when you make your partings and separate the front from the back, just double check and make sure that your exit points behind the ears are equal on both sides. Okay, so the first thing that I've done here is I have parted off my head into 4 panels, and now I am creating my my sectioning to create my guide. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a guide. I want it to be slightly shorter in the back than I do the front. And the tool I'm choosing to use is a razor, and I'm choosing to use that because I want the perimeter not to be blunt. I want it to be kind of piecey and kind of edgy. So I'm going to use a feather razor, and I'm just going to hold it between my thumb and my middle finger, and my third finger is in the hole. I'm just going to kind of subdivide this off because I feel like it's just a little bit too thick there. So because we've decided this is going to be a lob, I've got to be careful not to cut it too short. So I'm just going to kind of bring it down here. I want it to hit kind of right above the shoulders, right here where it, in the frontal area. So if I want it to be kind of A-line, I'm going to hit it about right here. So you got to kind of visually think it through before you start cutting. And I'm just kind of etching this off. I'm using just the kind of the back of the razor as I'm cutting, and I'm mirroring that diagonal that I created, like right here, my subsection. That's just a really good way to keep yourself on point, is when you take when you take each section, mirror the diagonal that you want to create in the perimeter. Now, if you notice when I'm using my razor, I'm not going in too deep. I'm just doing it just a little bit on the ends. And you can see how it wants it to move and flick. And that's what's nice about using a razor. I use a razor a lot in the salon. I'm going to subdivide that off as well. And we'll mirror that on this side as well. I tend to work side to side when I'm working, just to keep myself balanced. So now I'm moving to the right side. If you are a left-handed person, you're just going to do opposite of what I'm doing. So I'm just going to go right where I had left off in the center here. And I'm etching it, just kind of etching it off, but I'm using the tip of the razor on this one. And then just checking myself, making sure that I'm balanced. And then I'll let that last one drop. And if you notice, the hair is wet, but it's not so wet that I can't let it talk to me. It shows this head because it's a style that has a lot of movement and texture to it. And this mannequin is perfect for that. And your clients that have tend to have some nice wave to it, if you have the hair too wet, you can't see what it's going to do. So here I'm going to take the next section. Now, I'm not cutting at a 0 degree. I'm kind of pulling it out a little bit because when I look at the inspiration photo, it wasn't blunt on the ends. It had movement. So, and a lot of these looks kind of are in between, I would say, kind of in between it's got a shaggy vibe to these layers. So, or not to these layers, sorry, to the bob. And so I want to create a little bit of some graduation in the bottom and a little bit of movement. So I'm just kind of elevating it out just a little bit. And that's just going to create movement and really encourage that to happen. That's already taken off and looking good. And we're checking balance, making sure it's longer in the front. And I'm just going to work my way up the back. Okay, now we're on to the side, and I just took my mannequin head and kind of angled her to the side, and I'm just going to kind of tilt her chin up a little bit. And you want to really be aware of that when you're working on your clients at in the salon. You want to make sure that their chin is tilted upwards when you have them off to the side, because if you have their chin down and you cut this at an angle, when you bring their head up, it's going to kind of round up. So you just want to be really aware of that. So that's just another key point there. All right, so I'm just going to, now I'm just going to, she's not really thick in the front, so I'm just going to take my razor and kind of elevate it out just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of movement in the bottom, because I don't want it really blunt. As I move forward on the face, as the hair gets thinner, I'm gonna lower my elevation. The more I pull it out this way, the more layer I'm gonna get on the bottom. I share that with you because as you're working on these types of styles, a lot of it is gonna determine your eye and what you see. And you've gotta understand what technique is gonna help you out. There's only 3 ways to cut hair. Can you guess what they are? We all know them. One length, graduation, and layers. Okay, so in this look, I don't want a whole lot on the top. I want more along the bottom. So this is a lob, but it's got some movement to it. So it's kind of in between a lob and kind of a shag kind of version. So I just want to remind you before we move on, I want to remind you of our inspiration photo that we have. See that right there? Now what I want you to see in here is that yes, we've established your length, and you can see why I used a razor. I just want to remind you of that. It gives you more of a textured perimeter. But see the layers going on around here? So that tells me I need to put more of a roundness to it, but not length on top. She wants length on top. I want length on top for this look. So we're going to maintain the length that was kept here, and we're just going to go in and add some layers in the exterior of the head. And what I mean by that, anything below the parietal ridge or the widest point of the head, that's the exterior. And we're going to have layers that are going to affect it a little bit, okay? Now, because she's already been pre-cut and has some layers in it, I'm just going to pull it up, and I can see, I don't know if you can see that. Right there, I can see there's a little bit of layering going on there. So I'm just gonna pull it up. Now she's starting to dry on me, and I kind of like that. I want to just be able to let this style start to take place. When I'm working with the layers like this type of style, I want to let the hair talk to me as we're going. So I'm just gonna pull it out. Now I'm being careful not to cut into the perimeter of the hair. Let me turn you sideways so you can see that a little bit better. And I apologize for the lighting. Like I said, I had a cancellation, and there's a bunch of people in the salon, so I just came home and thought, why not do it right here in my studio? And I just don't have the best lighting. So I'm gonna pull it out, and I'm gonna just kind of, I've got my guide down here, my length, and I've got a guide right there on the length on the top that I want to establish. And I'm just gonna point cut it off. Now, I don't want any blunt lines in this cut, and that is why I am choosing to, you can see how that just lets go. Let me angle her down just a little bit so you can see a little better. Now I'm just gonna work and do this technique all the way around the head. But as I work my way around the head, I'm taking just enough section that I can see the guide that I cut last, okay? Those are just key points that just keep your hair cutting on point. My body position is just gonna keep, is standing behind my work, or in front of my work rather, and I'm just following the head around. Now I'm being aware of my elevation. I don't want to go too high up here because I don't want to cut into the interior of the hair. Or the head shape. I want to make sure that I'm just affecting that exterior. I tend to, when I'm working it around as well, I tend to kind of curve my fingers as well, just to keep it a little more rounded. All right. This is where you gotta be really aware of where you're at on your head shape. Right now, we're coming around here to the round of the head, kind of where to the mastoid process is, right behind the ear. That wide space, you need to be aware of that, because in this particular look, she's got more length in the front. She's going shorter in the back, longer in the front. So as I work my way around the side, back here, I was working on a pivoting guide. Now I'm gonna work on a vertical sectioning with a traveling guide, okay? And what I'm gonna do is each section that I take, I'm gonna bring back, because I wanna maintain the length in the front, I'm gonna bring it back to that hair behind the ear. And there again, just point cut off that point there around the perimeter. And after each cut, I always step back and take a look at it. When you're in the salon and you're working on a client, take the time to step back, turn your client, and look at her from the mirror instead of just keeping you up close like this. You want to take some time and step back from it and look at it and see how you're liking it. Like I'm looking at that and I can just see how that movement in life is starting to take hold. And I like it. But sometimes we get so caught up in our work that we forget to step back and look at it. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Now I'm just over directing this back, letting the perimeter fall out because I don't want to cut off that point on the end, on the perimeter. These looks, the geometric shape in the perimeter is part of the beauty of these looks. Now, as I work my way around, I'm right here around this, kind of this wide space here on the hairline. So once I get to that space, and when I'm working vertically on the side of the head, when it starts to round off in that frontal bone, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take a I'm going to start pie sectioning it again. And the reason I do that is because I want to blend that little bit of fringe in with it. And when I'm working on a vertical section like that, I've got a guide here and I've got my length here. So I know I'm not going to cut off the hair around the face. There's nothing worse than creating your haircut and you're done and you pull it down and you realize that you cut some hair around the face that you did not want to take off. Okay, so now we've got those layers in and you can see how that shape has really taken place. And now this is the time that we can just detail it and make it yours. This is where your creative eye comes in. A little reminder of your inspiration photo. Bring that up close so you can see that. I just feel like I need to loosen it up a little bit. So I'm going to use my razor, my feather razor. And when I'm looking at this, I feel like she's just a little bit heavy here and a little bit heavy in here. So I'm just going to take my razor and use it to kind of open up and kind of loosen up the waves and the curl. And it's kind of like channel cutting, but with a razor. So I'm going to take a vertical section here and I'll turn it this way so you can see it. And I'm just going to use the very tip of my feather razor and I'm going to bend the hair. I want to make sure when I go in and I create shorter pieces in there that you want to make sure you don't go past that first bend of the hair, because remember, short hair is strong and it directs long hair, and I want to just encourage the wave and I want to loosen up the hair on the ends. So I don't want to go past that. So I'm just going to bend it and make sure, and I'm just going to kind of take it. I'm just using the very end of my razor and I'm just taking some hair out, okay? And then I want to loosen this up a little bit. I don't want to take the length, so I'm just pulling it out and just kind of using the very tip of my blade and then just pulling it down and looking at it. Do I like that? Let's see. I'm going to take a little bit more. And I'm liking that. Now, I'm gonna take this part here. It's having a hard time kind of sweeping over, so I want to help it sweep over more. So what do I need to do? I need to create shorter to longer. So I'm just going to take this front section here, the hair that wants to come forward, because it's drying now, I can kind of see how it wants to live. I'm just going to take that front section, being very careful not to go past the outer part of the eyebrow, and I'm just going to comb everything nice and smooth, make sure I've got all the gatherings out at the root, and pull it over off to that left side, okay? I'm going to use my razor, and I'm just going to lightly feather off that hair. You can see how I created kind of a side, like an angled cut there, from shorter to longer. But see what happens when I move her back off to the side? See how it just creates that nice side swept, kind of a sweeping side bang, but not really, it's kind of long. Anyway, I'm just going to continue on and just kind of detail this out. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that. And just some of the takeaways I hope that you got from this is, you know, really looking at the pictures, inspiration photos that your clients are asking you for, and really learning that you need to be able to break it down to decide in your head, what techniques am I going to use to create this haircut? And what tools am I going to use to create this haircut? In this instance, we decided to use a razor because her inspiration photo had no blunt lines in it. It was kind of shaggy and had a lot of movement to it, and the geometric shape was more triangular. So I had all that in my head before I even started. Anyhow, thanks for watching this video, and I just want to remind you that your work behind the chair, it's not about you. It's about how you make your clients feel. Happy haircutting, and have a great day.